Welcome back to Purpose and Presence Hub, where we help you master your mind and transform your life. Today, I need to talk to you about something that's silently destroying your potential, your productivity, and your peace of mind. It's the epidemic of distraction, and chances are you're suffering from it right now without even realizing it. Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you sat down to do something important and actually stayed focused for more than 10 minutes? You pick up your phone to check one notification, and suddenly 30 minutes have vanished, scrolling through feeds. You open your laptop to work and end up watching random videos. You sit down to read, and your mind jumps to 1,000 different places. Sound familiar? If this is happening to you, it doesn't mean you have ADHD or some kind of disorder. In fact, it's become completely normal in our modern world. We're drowning in stimuli, notifications, videos, news, messages, everything screaming for our attention, every single second. Our focus is leaking away like water from a broken bucket, and we're paying a devastating price for it. Here's something that will shock you. Researchers at the University of California discovered that it takes an average person 23 minutes to regain full focus after a single interruption. 23 minutes. Now multiply that by the number of times you check your phone, switch tasks, or let your mind wander throughout the day. You're not actually working or studying for hours. You're spending most of your time trying to refocus. But what if I told you there's a technique that can completely reverse this? A method to train your brain to ignore distractions and dive so deeply into any task that the entire world around you simply disappears. This isn't some trendy productivity hack invented by a digital marketing guru. This technique comes from the ancient Zen monasteries of Japan, and it's called Ichigo Ichi, which means one thing at a time with complete attention. Let me tell you the story of Jake Morrison, a 16-year-old kid who discovered this technique and used it to completely transform his life. Jake wasn't a bad student. He understood math, physics, and programming, but he had one massive problem. He couldn't concentrate. He'd sit down to study calculus, and within minutes he'd be checking Instagram. He'd watch a video lesson and pause halfway to check sports scores. His mind was constantly jumping. Jake had a huge dream. He wanted to get into MIT, one of the most competitive universities on the planet, where geniuses are made. But his grades were stuck in the middle, barely passing, nowhere near MIT standards. His friends would mock him constantly. "Jake, you want MIT, but you can't even get a B in math? You'll end up flipping burgers." They laughed, but every word hit Jake like a punch to the gut. His parents pressured him too, not maliciously, but desperately wanting their son to try harder. And Jake knew he had potential. The problem was, he couldn't access it, because whenever he sat down to focus, his brain sabotaged him. He'd spend hours daydreaming about his graduation from MIT, his first programming job, his friends apologizing for doubting him. Meanwhile, the math book stayed closed and the dream stayed distant. Until one day, after getting another low grade, Jake had a breakdown. He was tired of being mediocre, tired of disappointing everyone, tired of the jokes, but instead of giving up, he did something different. He asked for help. The next day, Jake went to see Mr. Tanaka, the school's math teacher, a calm Japanese man in his 50s, who had this incredible centered presence. Jake poured his heart out about his inability to focus, his dreams, his frustration. Mr. Tanaka listened quietly, then smiled and asked Jake a simple question. "When you study, how many tabs do you have open on your computer?" Jake thought for a second. Maybe 10. And your phone? Where is it? Right next to me, with notifications on. Mr. Tanaka laughed. I was exactly like you when I was young. My mind wandered constantly until my grandfather taught me something that completely changed my life. He wrote on a piece of paper and handed it to Jake. Ishigo Ichie. It's a concept from Zen Buddhism. It means concentration on a single action. The practice of doing one thing at a time with total attention, as if you and the action become one. Jake was confused. Like just focusing on one thing? It's not just focusing, Jake. It's becoming the thing you're doing. When you study math, you're not Jake studying math. You are math. There's no separation. You immerse completely. Mr. Tanaka continued. Have you ever started a video game and realized 3 hours passed? Yes, always. That's called flow state. You were so immersed, you lost track of time. Ichigo Ichie is learning to intentionally enter this state in any activity. Something clicked in Jake's mind. Mr. Tanaka pulled out research articles combining Ichigo Ichie with neuroscience. Take these home. Study them. Apply them. Tell me what happens. Jake's hands trembled as he took the papers. Something inside told him this would change everything. That night, Jake stayed up reading. Everything made sense. One article explained how every distraction forces your brain to expend massive energy to reset and refocus. The more you do this, the more you train your brain to be distracted. Another discussed the Pomodoro technique, blocks of focused work followed by conscious breaks. Another covered choice architecture, modifying your environment to make distractions impossible. Jake realized he wasn't weak or lazy. He'd just never learned to use his attention correctly. From that day, everything changed. He created a ritual. Phone in another room. All notifications off. Only one browser tab open. 25-minute timer set. 3 deep breaths. Then total immersion. The first 5 minutes were brutal. His mind screamed to check his phone, watch YouTube, do anything else. But Jake remembered what he'd learned. When distraction arises, don't fight it. Simply observe it, acknowledge it, and gently bring your attention back. He did this about 10 times in the first session, but in the second session, distractions decreased. In the third, he entered a concentration state he'd never experienced before. 75 minutes passed, and Jake had made more progress than he normally did in an entire week. For the first time in forever, he felt in control. He maintained the ritual daily. Cell phone out, environment prepared, breathing, total focus. He went even further, applying Ichigo Ichie to everything. When he ate, he focused only on eating. When he talked to someone, he was totally present. He realized he'd lived his whole life on autopilot. Now, he was awake. His friends noticed the change, but didn't understand. Jake didn't care, because he was finally building the future he wanted, instead of just dreaming about it. Then came the first math test after his transformation. Jake sat down, entered the state, became one with the mathematics. When tests were returned, Jake stared at his paper in disbelief. An A. He'd never received such a high grade in his life. Mr. Tanaka smiled from across the room. This was just the beginning. The following months were incredible. Jake's grades rose consistently. A's in physics, chemistry, programming. His parents were shocked, but Jake had learned something deeper than grades. Discipline isn't about willpower, it's about systems. Creating an environment and routine that make it impossible to fail. Distraction isn't the enemy, it's just a sign your mind is tired, bored, or afraid. At year's end, Jake applied to MIT. His friends still mocked him. MIT? That's crazy. Do you know how many brilliant people get rejected? Jake just smiled. I'll do my best. The rest is out of my control. He applied the same philosophy to everything: SATs, essays, programming projects. 6 months later, an email arrived. Congratulations, you have been admitted to MIT. Jake screamed so loud his parents came running. He'd done it, but more importantly, he'd learned to master his attention. And whoever masters their attention masters their life. Here's the science behind this. Harvard University research shows that mindfulness practice, exactly what Ichigo Ichie proposes, increases gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex. Your brain literally changes structure. The region responsible for planning, impulse control, and focus becomes stronger. Stanford research showed people practicing focused attention have up to 40% reduction in brain's default mode network activation, the network responsible for mind wandering and distraction. Every time you bring your attention back when it wanders, you're literally building a stronger brain. This isn't mysticism, it's pure neuroscience. But here's the craziest part. Ichigo Ichie isn't just about productivity, it's about truly living. How many meals have you eaten without remembering the taste? How many movies watched while checking your phone? How many conversations with loved ones where your mind was elsewhere? We're living on autopilot, letting life pass while we're distracted. Ichigo Ichie wakes you up. When you learn to be fully present, you don't just work better, you live better. Food tastes better. Conversations have more depth. Experiences become richer. Studies show people practicing mindfulness report much higher happiness and life satisfaction. Because happiness doesn't come from having more things. It comes from being present in what you already have. Your life is made up of moments. If you're not present in your moments, you're not living your life, you're just watching it pass by. If this message resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss content from Purpose and Presence Hub. Share this video with anyone struggling with focus and distraction. Leave a comment below about your biggest distraction today. Remember, one thing at a time, full attention. That's how you change the game. Be present. Thank you for watching Purpose and Presence Hub, and I'll see you in the next video.